COVID-19 related or not. Medical emergencies happen when you least expect them. Whether it's a stroke, heart attack, illness, or injury, San Juan Regional Medical Center's caregivers are here to provide care to you and your loved ones. Find out more online at sanjuanregional.com. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, here to meet your urgent and emergent medical needs, whether they are COVID-19 related or not. Medical emergencies happen when you least expect them. Whether it's a stroke, heart attack, illness, or injury, San Juan Regional Medical Center's caregivers are here to provide care to you and your loved ones. Find out more online at sanjuanregional.com. Ten minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Wednesday morning, June the 24th. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Micklin, and thanks for tuning in to KSJE, the community-supported radio station here at San Juan College, 90.9 FM and 103.3 FM. Also, you can listen anywhere from our website, of course, ksje.com. Welcome also to our viewers who are watching this visual radio program, streaming live this morning to the KSJE Facebook page and YouTube channel. We're glad that you are with us today. Coming up in the next few moments, my guests from the Farmington School District, Superintendent Dr. Eugene Schmidt, will be joining me. He'll also be introducing us to two new principals in the Farmington School District for the upcoming school year. New principals for Apache Elementary School and also San Juan College High School. So join us for that coming up in the next few moments right here on KSJE. Then, of course, it's our weekly trip to the Encouragement Lab, a best of segment today from Dr. Mike Hadabaugh talking about hate from the Encouragement Lab. That's coming up today at 8:50 a.m. on KSJE. Next hour at 9 o'clock, of course, streaming live to YouTube and Facebook. Co-host Megan Cullip will be joining me here in Studio A to talk about local information about the coronavirus. We hope you'll join us for that live this morning at 9, or you can also hear it again as a rebroadcast this afternoon at 5:06 p.m. on KSJE and on our website. On the radio at 9, it's Roving with the Arts. Mick Hess is going to take us roving this morning. He is playing music from composers Bliss and Brahms on the show today. It's a special 90-minute version of Roving with the Arts, so stay tuned for that coming up this morning on the radio at 9:06 a.m. And that takes us to 10:30, our local and regional author program right on Four Corners. Tracy Hales-Vass is speaking with author J.M. Mitchell about his newest book, which is called Killing Godiva's Horse. You'll hear that conversation this morning at 10:30 on Right on Four Corners on KSJE. And don't forget, of course, you can connect with us on Twitter and Instagram in addition to Facebook and YouTube. And let's check the weather forecast. It's going to be another hot one today, mostly sunny skies on this Wednesday. The high today, 96 in Farmington, clear and 61 overnight. Partly sunny skies tomorrow with a high again of 96 degrees. It'll be partly sunny and 95 on Friday, 92 with partly sunny skies on Saturday, and 89 for a high on Sunday, with overnight lows again near 60 degrees. Joining me this morning to continue our monthly conversation about the Farmington School District, Superintendent of Schools Dr. Eugene Schmidt is joining us from his home in Farmington. Dr. Schmidt, good morning.
Good morning, Scott, and good morning to all our listeners on KSJE.
Good to see you and have you with us. Thank you very much. And you've invited a couple of your district's newest principals to join us as well. Davina Terry is here. She is the new principal at Apache Elementary School. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Great to see you and have you with us. And also, Seth Martinez is joining us, the new principal of San Juan College High School. Mr. Martinez, good morning to you.
Good morning, Scott. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Thank you both for being here. And so, Dr. Schmidt, you had extended the invitation to these new principals to maybe talk a little bit about the transition and what these two educators will be bringing to their schools in the fall.
Yes, and let me begin by saying we're very excited for the leadership and the vision that these people are bringing. Both have extensive service in the Farmington Municipal Schools. They know our kids, they know our traditions, and they bring a sense of excitement that is sure to grow the quality in their schools. And I've known these people for the 5 years that I've been in the district, and excited to draw them into the new leadership circle.
Very good. Well, again, congratulations to you both. And Davina, Terry, let's start with you a little bit about your thoughts about Apache Elementary School. Certainly a school with a long history in Farmington, great students, great families. And so what are you looking forward to working at Apache as principal?
So what I'm looking forward to at Apache is to be able to continue building on the strong systems that we have in place at Apache, to continue striving for strong family engagement and providing staff with tools for effective teaching, and as always, continue learning and seeking out ways to improve.
Very good. And of course, for some folks, some of the grades at Apache have been maybe somewhat disappointing, but on their way up in recent years. Isn't that true, Dr. Schmidt or Davina, Terry?
Yes, I'll jump in first. We're watching the trends of all of our schools, and there's movement afoot at Apache. Miss Terry knows a lot about the parent engagement process that we're going through called academic parent-teacher teams. And so there is a sense of excitement that we're going to figure out the academic proficiency part and use our parent engagement to help us do that. So it will be interesting come the fall when kids return to learn, the impact of having spent these 45 days learning from home. But again, the parent engagement is a strong component. Miss Terry not only knows that portion, but she also knows a lot about one of the programs we're very excited about, and that's the Dene Indigenous Language Program that perhaps she could talk about as well.
All right, please do.
So Apache is piloting, or is the only school that has the Dene Revitalization Program. We are going to be entering our third year of that program. So it started in kindergarten, and each class will move as a cohort up through the grades. So our flagship class is going to be entering second grade, where they are following a model of dual language of 50% instruction in Dene and 50% instruction in English. We do also have a first grade class coming up for this next year, and then our third kindergarten class will be this next year also.
Very good. And is this something you've worked with before, Ms. Terry, in your educational career?
The Dene program is unique in that it is a revitalization program as opposed to a strictly dual language program. So it's kind of a learning as you go. But I was a kindergarten teacher for the last 8 years at Apache, so I've been able to see the program mature through the last 2 years. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how it evolves up through fifth grade.
Very good. And go ahead, Dr. Schmidt.
Thank you. I was going to say that again, Apache sees their path to the future through parent engagement. And part of the Dene Revitalization program is language for parent classes as well. And so we've had a lot of nice interaction with parents who are interested in learning the language, as do their children. So that's something that we're going to continue to watch and understand. It's an opportunity that we see available to other elementaries. For example, we have, I want to say McCormick is doing a dual language Spanish program. We'll be watching to see if we may add another kindergarten early language program. I know that Bluffview, for example, is interested. So the nice part about Principal Terry's leadership, and certainly Principal Bowles before her, is that you get to do things that you watch and observe, and then you take the best practices, and then you begin to offer them to other schools. And so again, it's that parent engagement. When kids, this is a well-researched fact, Scott, but when kids see their parents valuing education, they will also value education, and that causes, what maybe was a crawl to become a walk to become a sprint. And so we're very excited about what's this leadership transition from Principal Bowles to Principal Terry really is a validation by that staff and community that they like the direction they're going. And the central office, we will be supporting that. If I can add one other thought is there's a certain amount of we're going to help ourselves attitude in Apache. A year ago, incoming Principal Terry will remember that I got a letter from the second grade that wanted a playground. They kind of saw what they had in the backyard there at Apache, and so all the kids wrote a personal letter to Ted Lazowitz, who is my chief operations officer, and I, saying that we'd love to have a playground. And so Mr. Lazowitz and we went back and we met with the teachers and the kids, and we said, well, what would you want? And so the kids got to be involved in designing a playground. And at the start of last school year, we opened that new playground for the kids, to the excitement of all. But it's a school that says, you know what, we're going to be proactive, we're going to take care of ourselves, we're going to own our own learning. And so that brings us back to Principal Terry, who exudes all of those qualities in moving that building forward. So Principal, we're very excited and looking forward to your leadership.
I'm very excited to be able to continue a leadership role at Apache. And that's one of the things that I really love about Apache Elementary, is that for as long as I've been there, we've never shied away from piloting programs, from being the first to step up and say, hey, we want to do that here. And that's one of the reasons why I feel so strongly and believe so deeply in the students and the staff at Apache.
So Principal Terry, let me build on that, because I think that we collaborated some 5 years ago when 95% Group came to town in terms of learning new strategies to teach kindergartners and first graders how to read. And so the whole idea of the 95% Group was piloted through Apache.
Yes, we've piloted several programs. In addition to the 95% Group, the academic parent-teacher teams that you had mentioned earlier, we piloted that program in our school. We were one of the first schools to embrace the UVA program. So there's been several programs that we've been piloted.
Yes, and so for the listeners, the University of Virginia, the Darden School of Business, had trainings in turnaround schools. And Apache was an early adopter of that. And so let me fast forward back to the 95% Group. Our listening audience would be pleased to know that Nicole Lamson, who is now our Executive Director of Elementary and Curriculum across the district, she was invited to present at the national level on the reading progress that we are making through things including the 95% Group. So it's, we appreciate Nicole, but also Apache being risk takers in trying new things. And so we hope that will continue.
Very good. Well, thank you both very much. I think that's fascinating and interesting, and good luck to you, Davina Terry, as you take on the principalship at Apache Elementary School, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Let me turn to Seth Martinez, the other new principal who is joining us, who is the new principal just down the hall here from KSJE at San Juan College High School. And Mr. Martinez, you are actually on campus. You came into the office to do a little bit of work today. We can see you in your office, and congratulations to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to this experience, and certainly coming from our, another large high school here in the district, it just is exciting to see a different perspective and a new view on how high school can work.
Right, exactly. You were coming to San Juan College High School from Piedra Vista High School, right?
Farmington High School.
Farmington. How could I get that wrong? I apologize. But you are here now, and of course it's a smaller student body, and the academic achievements of the students at San Juan College High School go without saying. Dr. Schmidt and I have talked about them for quite a long time, and so it seems like things are going very well. Those students are really achieving in almost every area, are they not?
Absolutely. I think that like you said, it kind of speaks for itself. The academics and the achievement that San Juan College High School has had since it opened has been, it's posted on the walls here, and it's been one of the top high schools, if not the top high school, right? And as far as academic achievement is concerned in the state. And my hope is obviously to maintain that academic excellence and build on that as best we can, and certainly have a heavy focus on our instructional practices that we can see to promote that.
Very good. Dr. Schmidt, yes.
Yeah, if I can join in, I wanted to share that certainly we're excited about Principal Martinez stepping in. It's one of those things that when you replace a legend, it just adds to the how much you better come ready to work every day.
Well, true, right? And the legend you're talking about, of course, is the former principal who retired just a couple months ago or a few weeks ago, right?
Yes, Principal Lorette will be remembered with great fondness well into the years that will go by, not only having worked with Principal Martinez when you were both at Farmington High. Perhaps you can talk about some of those old collaborative days, but Seth has been busy being mentored by Principal Lorette for these last half of the school year. So we're excited that traditions live on through those who are the mentees. That's
true. Mr. Martinez, again, your connection to Don Lorette certainly goes back a few years.
Oh, certainly. As a matter of fact, I just recently was looking at some DVDs that were converted from VHS, and I must have been 7 years old. And there's Mr. Lorette, Principal Lorette, Coach Lorette at the time, helping me with my baseball swing. So he's known me essentially my entire life, and I've had the opportunity to play baseball for him. I used to call him in college to consult on different things. And certainly working with him was a great privilege at Farmington High School, and to have this opportunity to work with him in this capacity has been great too. And so I spoke with him this morning, and so we have a great working relationship and share a lot of the same ideas and I think values on education.
Very good. Well, and of course, for folks who are been watching for a while, we just had the first graduating class of San Juan College High School across the stage, as it were, in May, and so now we're going to see more graduates every year, right, from the student body at San Juan College High School.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me step in before Principal Martinez by just offering a compliment to the class of 2020. When schools are ranked, is based upon the information or academic proficiencies from a year before. And so what we would want Seth Martinez to talk about in a moment is this year they were ranked when you look at all the different ranking categories, as the #1 school, not only high school, but of all the schools in the entire state. So, think about a number like 2,964. And you're the #1, and those kids did this on academic proficiencies from last year. So it really is fun watching this class go out or leave as the best in the state. And so we're excited for this group of kids going out who have set a very high model expectation for future generations, but really put the state on notice that kids from the Four Corners can be the best in our state.
Well, very true, and they set the bar very high. Mr. Martinez, it looks like you've got your work cut out for you to maintain those standards with your students.
Certainly want to echo that sentiment from Dr. Schmidt earlier in regards to big shoes to fill, and happy to take on that challenge. Obviously any starting class, we have 80 incoming first-year students or freshman students, and our biggest achievement will be to maintain that number throughout their 4 years with us, and see the successes that we've seen with this graduating class. And so if we're able to track those students And really, after they graduate, even the hope would be to know where students are going, what their line of work they're getting into, the certifications that have led them to different work opportunities, and be able to look at that data over time will be very interesting as well. But certainly the academic achievement is something we want to maintain and that we're proud of. And I know that outgoing Principal Lorette was very proud of that as well, and has a hardworking staff here. And we've had some additions to our staff here that are excited to take on that challenge as well.
Scott, if I can jump in, we wanted to extend a thank you to San Juan College. None of this would be possible without a great collaborative partnership with not only the college, but our Four Corners school districts as well. I know that Principal Lorette was fond of saying it's a high school without borders. Kids come in from all over the Northwest, and that only adds to the enrichment and of the culture of that school. And so it is with excitement. Perhaps Principal Martinez, you can talk about your incoming class for this next year.
Sure. We recently held our freshman orientation, and it was done via Zoom. But we had a great turnout, and we had our staff present. We did staff introductions. Students and parents, guardians, families, they all had the opportunity to ask questions of the early college and just what they may be expecting once they arrive here. And I think that contributes to the continuation and development of the culture, just of pride and family, and what it means to be a Griffin and go to the early college and be here on San Juan College's campus as well. And I'd like to echo that same sentiment, Dr. Schmidt, about how great it's been to share that the school and the vision with different entities. And it is definitely a school without borders. And there's a lot of stakeholders and people invested in this experience, and not only families. So it's been great thus far. And I think that people are excited. Our first year students are certainly excited to get going.
I was going to say that Principal Lorette was also fond of saying kids graduate 2 degrees better, or at least
Right.
1 degree better than everybody else. And so what he might also say is that all these kids do 2 years in one. You know, literally that, and maybe Principal Martinez can explain how quickly kids accelerate through their 4 years of high school.
Right.
Sure. Essentially, our kids are finishing what at a traditional high school would be completed in a year. They're finishing in a semester. And so that accelerated pace adds to the complexity of the school year. And so a first year student is going to essentially be a freshman and a sophomore within one school year. And so if you can imagine the pressure and the complexity of a second year student who is really living in the world of a high school student and a college student, each year begins to add a little bit more on that student. And so to think of the students that graduated this year from San Juan College High School, it's remarkable to look at the achievement and the degrees, the certifications that accompanied those students as they progressed each year and successively took on more responsibility.
Very good. Well, congratulations. And again, as we have said, the students that graduate from San Juan College High School graduate with their high school diploma and their college certificate in their field of study here at San Juan College. So it's amazing, and credit to both of you, I think, about how this is the only, or one of the very few, early college high schools across the country that is a combination of multiple local school districts. In other places, it's usually just from one district. It's my understanding. Dr. Schmidt, am I dating myself, or is that still an accurate description?
Yes, it is I think a national best practice is a model. It is a model that people are just now beginning to understand. I had a call from a superintendent friend in the state of Washington who shared that they had looked at San Juan College High School as a model, and now somewhere up in the places called the Tri-Cities, if you're familiar with Richland, Kennewick, Pasco, they now have a 3-school district early college high school. So it's just an idea that's going to be catching on. As you say, traditionally it was bigger school districts that had a close partnership with the community college could do that for themselves. As an example, Las Cruces
Right.
has a arrowhead, but pretty much for their kids, it's unusual for Kennewick, Richland, Pasco, or in our case, an Aztec Bloomfield Central Consolidated to share kids, to give kids this whole new exposure to not only in a very elite learning setting, but a great partnership with their local college.
Very good. Well, it's a great testament to the work and the cooperation with all the school districts and the superintendents and shucks, even Savon College. So it's a great thing to see it moving forward. And Mr. Martinez, good luck to you this school year coming up, and we'll look forward to seeing how things go with the Griffins this year.
Thank you very much. I sure appreciate it.
You are welcome, and thank you for spending some time with us this morning. I appreciate it very much. Dr. Schmidt, you and I can talk a little bit about some other things that I know you are looking at and following. One, of course, would be the budget proposal that has been passed in the special session by the state legislature that by Wednesday morning should be on its way to the governor's desk, I would think, for her signature. But how does that look for school districts and for Farmington schools specifically?
Yes, and I appreciate the fact that you're so up on your politics, because it does go to the governor's desk by Wednesday. And so we are all very anxious, because so much money is or has been moved about in just a weekend's worth of time. When you think of the task of getting together a bunch of people and say, oh, by the way, we need to cut $600 million, then that's a lot of horse trading or navigating or arm twisting. But education, which is about 47% of the budget, had a walking stick taking to it. And we look at a number of different programs that were eliminated or reduced greatly in funding. Certainly ones that the community would be curious about. There was a K-5 plus that 3 of our schools were going to apply. In fact, Apache, Davina could probably talk about that, but Apache Elementary, one of those early starters, one of those pilot schools, ran a K-5 extended school year. That's not going to happen.
Right, okay.
The state has cut early that added year time out of the budget. There was also a new fund for early childhood education that we really think will be the hope for the future. If you're going to catch kids, Scott, you want to catch them early. And so the governor had about $320 million in an early childhood program. 20 million of that was cut, and so we will wait and see the impact to our area with the reduction in early childhood funding. So we're watching that. Certainly the one that the staff was most interested in was the salaries. It's amazing, a lifetime ago was just March of this year when the legislature was concluding its business and had given teachers a 4% raise. Well, that money isn't in the budget because of reduced gross receipts tax, reduced funding from oil and gas revenues. And so that was one of the big cutting things that the legislature looked at. It does look like the state has given the teachers and school staff a 1%, and that's important because that just about is the same amount that healthcare costs will go up. And so as we, sometimes you go to the legislature and don't do us harm. It would have been sad if health insurance costs would have gone up and teacher raises would have been eliminated. Teachers would actually go home with less pay than a year ago. So while I know that all teachers are happy to have a job, we are also grateful that the legislature has given money that will cover the cost of their health care. So those are, I think, the critical things that come out of the budget. But
right.
We will continue to study them.
Very good. And I think a lot of folks, observers and things, Dr. Schmidt, were surprised that maybe the cuts weren't as large as maybe folks were expecting when it seemed to be how much of a deficit the state was going to have. It seems like they're being able to use some reserves and some other funding and not have to cut. And, of course, I think the other big thing that politicians like to tell us is no tax increases either with this new budget proposal.
Yes, and so I agree that there was a certain amount of shifting of monies. I know that the state tinkered a little bit with some movement of some of the tobacco funds. The federal government has sent to the state about $100 million for as a federal stimulus called CARES Act.
Right.
And of that, about $13 million was set aside for public schools. I do believe that when I fully understand what came out of last weekend, that a certain amount of that would be taken back from the school to backfill some of the costs of from the loss of SEG. So,
Okay.
and I think we're all trying to understand the federal government and our own public education department having some differences of opinion on something called impact aid, and so we are trying to understand, how monies generated by, in our case, students who live on the reservation, there is a federal impact in lieu of tax. And so we're trying to understand what that would mean if the state were to try and, continue to take a portion of that. So there's a lot of moving parts. We will continue to study that. But in the end of the day, when you say, it is not as bad as it could. And so I'm really anxious to listen to when you have Rob Mays and certainly Nate Duckett on the radio sometime, that the impact to the cities and the counties.
Sure. Well, and again, that may be a very different situation than the schools. You're certainly right about that, Dr. Schmidt. I did want to ask you about plans for the fall. I know that I think you have multiple plans maybe for the fall, because I don't think any decisions have yet been made. But you are preparing, and your staff is preparing for a number of different possibilities. Is that true? Yes,
and I would say that there's some early indications that the governor may come out with announcements as by Wednesday, the day we're on the radio. So we're trying to think through as many different scenarios. We'd love to have the governor say everything's healthy, we can all come back, but that's doubtful. And so I'm thinking that, we will be looking at what does online learning as a continuation of what we had from the spring. But we're also looking at different kinds of hybrid models, because the state is designed on phases, and perhaps as phases come in, we can welcome more and more kids back into the school process. But I do anticipate the governor, at least by Wednesday, announcing, what we're going to be doing.
Very good. Okay. And so there may be some A-B rotation or some other hybrid models and things like that you may be allowed to do for students partially in school, partially at home?
Yeah, and I appreciate you asking that question, because one of the, as we try to understand how many kids might be welcome back at any one time, in phase 1 it's 5, and it's phase 2 it's 10. Phase 3 it's around 50. So how many kids could you put into a classroom? So one of the considerations is, what might it look like if some kids came to school on Monday, Tuesday, and maybe Wednesday is a cleaning day, and then another group of kids come on Thursday and Friday? Or what if it were alternating weeks of kids, knowing that if you were in school, it was direct instruction. If you weren't in school, it would be through online learning. So we're looking at different scenarios to best use our teachers and our educational assistants. As an example, we're running some preliminary surveys, and we've identified about 50 people who have different immune deficiencies that make them subject to being at risk. And so we're trying to understand, how do you accommodate the needs of staff, as well as the needs of probably hundreds of kids who maybe have different susceptibilities because of an illness or two. But
right.
The rotation might give us ways to bring in kids for short spells, then have them, have that 4 days away when the symptoms might develop. So we're looking at different kinds of options. And what we'll need is a lot of conversation with families and businesses, because Scott, you and I know everybody wants to go back to work, and I want people to go back to work. And so when you want the community to go back to work and there still may be childcare needs, that's a conflict. And so we're trying to think through ways that how do we get parents back to work, but also the kids safe if we have to have them be home for a while.
Sure. Well, that makes sense, Dr. Schmidt. And so we just have a couple of minutes remaining this morning, and I know you sent me a couple of pictures of the construction going on out at Country Club Elementary School that I know you're pleased with and excited to talk about, and we can kind of see some of the progress here as I display them on the screen for our video viewers this morning. And so tell us what we're looking at.
Yes, and we're looking at Country Club Elementary. And I would say for the good people and kids of Country Club, we really appreciate your patience. This has probably been a 2-year design and begin to build. But once we got people to build, it's really going fast, and it's going to look different. You know, for our viewers, there's one picture showing Country Club from an exterior point of view, with a couple of rather starship-looking things up on top of the building. That it's a whole redesigned way to heat and cool a building. And for buildings, many that were built in the 50s across the district had no air conditioning. And they had outdoors and windows. And so for those people who visualize Country Club, a good many of those windows and doors are going away from the outside. So the envelope of the school is going to look completely different with fewer windows. And of course, Scott, you and I know that has everything to do with student and staff safety. It's a different kind of a world.
Right.
Not only do we worry about COVID indoors, but we worry about people with ill intent from the outside. And so we're looking at a different way to wrap all of our schools over time that make them more secure. But one of the I think most wanted things was a hallway to connect the cafeteria with the main building. And so when kids come back in the fall, they're going to be really excited to have the cafeteria and the main building connected through a hall, which also includes bathrooms. And those bathrooms, Scott, you'll notice from the picture that it's conveniently close to the outdoor playground as well. So we'll get a kind of a double dose of a quick trip to the bathroom and then back to the playground, as well as if you're in the cafeteria, can do the bathroom break.
Right, there you go.
Just going to make the whole building more secure, but also more connected. During bad weather, kids won't have to go outdoors to go to the cafeteria. It's a great model, great design, but importantly, the community has been really patient while we put this together. And what the community would also be pleased with is how much of it is dollars from other places. Under the guidance of Mr. Lazarowitz, we've really tapped into money from around the state. And so our portion of this is probably about $2.5 million of a $9 million design.
Okay. Very good. And so we're seeing the scaffolding there of or the framing of the hallway project and the bathroom project that you're talking about, Dr. Schmidt, and in the other picture, the bright, shiny looking HVAC systems on the roof of the Country Club Elementary School is what you're showing us in these pictures.
Yes, and for the people who would just visualize kind of a metal skeletal of a building, and what is it? It's around the 24th of June when you think that building's going to be up and operational in time for kids to come back in the fall. These people are really hustling, and so we're excited about that. And what is important for our community to also know, Scott, is that some similar improvements are being made over at McKinley that perhaps we'll talk about in July.
Okay.
That a whole new way to connect and improve the safety from the office to the main building is underway at McKinley. So Mr. Lazarowitz and friend are really concerned about improving student and staff safety, which is our commitment. And that's why this whole COVID thing will be very thoughtful as we develop plans to bring kids back.
Very good. Well, Dr. Schmidt, I know you'll be out there with your camera, and we'll have some maybe pictures to show in July of this project that you're talking about, and be back to tell us more about maybe what the plans are for the fall. By July, hopefully, we'll have a better idea of what to expect. But I'm afraid we're out of time for this month, so thank you so much.
See you next month.
All right, very good. Thank you, Dr. Eugene Schmidt, the superintendent of schools with the Farmington School District. Also, our principals who joined us earlier in the program, Davina Terry, the new principal of Apache Elementary School, and Seth Martinez, the new principal at San Juan College High School. My guests this morning on KSJE. This program on KSJE is supported by Citizens Trust and Investment Corporation, providing a competent, innovative, and caring team of professionals to serve wealth management, trust administration, employee benefit plans, retirement planning, and estate settlement needs. Find out more about Citizens Trust and Investment Corporation at 505-599-8800.